the vital role that campaigns and elections play in the battle of ideas. We'll explore that and more on today's edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on what the right to life is. There's a lot of talk about the right to life, and now, after the overturn of the Roe v. Wade decision, and living in the shadow of the Dobbs decision, which gives each and every state the authority to again protect lives within that state, there needs to be understanding as to what this debate is about. And that's what we talk about here on Life Matters. What is the right to life? What does it literally mean? There's a lot of emotions, and I have to tell you, there's a lot of misunderstandings in this debate. We want to bring clarity. Today, we're going to talk about public opinion polls again. We talked about public opinion polls in our last program, and you can go back on the podcast to listen to that. This is part 2 about public opinion polls. And one of the conclusions we came to is that polling is very misleading. That polling, unless you look at the nature of the question that's being asked, the conclusion can be very, very misleading. We talked about a poll last time by the Pew Charitable Trust. It's one of the better known names in polling. It's used throughout the nation. It's used by the popular media as the definitive guide now. We no longer hear much from AP and UPI or the New York Times talking about the Gallup survey. The Gallup poll was often quoted in those outlets. The Gallup poll tended to get more details in front of the interviewee. They would ask more specific questions rather than, are you pro-choice or pro-life? They would ask about the specifics rather than say, do you support Roe v. Wade or not? They would go beyond that because in reality, most people don't understand Roe v. Wade. Most people never understood Roe versus Wade on both sides of the aisle. So to ask if someone supports or opposes it, one is not coming to a valid conclusion regarding their position on abortion. Gallup, when it's more detailed, historically has asked specifics about when abortions are done and for what reason those abortions are done. And those answers revealed that many Americans are very uncomfortable with abortion on demand, with unlimited abortion. In fact, we're going to get into that in more detail today because more polls have come out. But the media has suppressed those polls. The media has a vested interest in using polling not to find out where people are at, but to control where people are at. They're using polls to control public opinion. They want people to think, well, this is what most people think. I guess I should think that way too. It's really a form of peer pressure, of media peer pressure. And that's what the media does best. They want to instruct you in what you should think. So that's why we have to push through to the deeper issues. That's what we do here on Life Matters. 2 polls came out recently now after the Dobbs decision. And these polls are very significant because these polls are willing to get into the details and publish them. One is a national poll. The other is a California poll. And those of you who listen to us know that we do talk about California a lot here. But the reason is that California does influence the nation. We talk about this right now because this is going to be the debate for the foreseeable future. What laws should each state enact? Here in California, on Election Day, November 22nd, every voter is going to decide if Proposition 1 should legalize unlimited choice in California. Now, thankfully, we're going to talk about what polling indicates in California regarding that proposition. But the media is going to lie about it. The media is going to try to stir up people's opinions and mislead them on what proper and clear thinking is regarding abortion law and what's an appropriate abortion law. They're using polling to do that, but we're going to talk about polls that indicate something very, very different. that the more people know about human abortion, the more they look at the reasons that they're done, or in some cases, the lack of reasons for which they're done, when they're just done for choice. I just don't want to be pregnant. It's very disconcerting to the average American. So we're going to talk about those polls, but the purpose is to prepare you wherever you are. The purpose is to prepare you for this battle now that we're dealing with. Every state is going to be able to determine what's appropriate abortion law. You need to know how to frame the issue and how the media is framing the issue to mislead you. How the pro-abortion forces are claiming something that just isn't true. One of the things they're claiming right now is they just want to restore Roe. That's all they want. That's a lie. They never liked Roe. Roe did not give them what they wanted. Roe specifically gave the abortionists the authority and took the authority from the state, that authority to determine if an abortion should be done. That was given to the states, and it is states who determine whether or not taking a human life is appropriate. It's your state legislature that passes those laws. And the Dobbs decision has returned that authority to the state legislatures. But that isn't how the other side is presenting it. They're saying Roe versus Wade is overturned, and therefore you like Roe, we need to go back. They're not going back. They're going well beyond it. For example, in California, Proposition 1 will legalize abortion for any reason or no reason at all. Will actually put into the state constitution a prohibition on any regulation of abortion. It actually will cause the state to fund abortion, and it will not allow any future laws regarding abortion because it'll be in the Constitution. And that future law would impinge on the woman's right to choose. Again, misleading language, but that isn't what Roe versus Wade gave to women. It didn't give women that right. It gave doctors the authority to take lives, and when it was overturned, it returned the authority to determine which lives will be taken. It returned that authority to the legislatures. So women never had unlimited rights to an abortion. They didn't. The doctor made the determination. The woman was prohibited from actually making the decision. She could ask. Roe versus Wade said she could ask, but it was very clear she needed a doctor who was willing to kill that baby. The doctor made the decision. It wasn't a woman's decision. Here's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She pounds it home. Ruth, what is your thought regarding Roe v. Wade? Did it give women the right to choose?
Another feature of Roe is Roe really isn't about the woman's choice, is it? It's about the doctor's freedom to practice his profession as he thinks best. It wasn't woman-centered. It was physician-centered.
The decision in Roe v. Wade was physician-centered. It empowered doctors to kill. In Dobbs, the Supreme Court said no. Only state government has the authority to decide who will live and die in abortion and in every other case. The government of the state has a compelling interest to protect the lives of those within its jurisdiction. That's what the Dobbs decision said, and now we're facing that challenge in every state. So be ready in dealing with public opinion. We're going to get into these polls in a second here. You're going to like what they say because they get specific. Again, this is part 2 on polling. Can you trust it? And there are polls you can trust if they get to the facts, if they are not full of verbiage that misleads and misguides the answers. If you get specific questions, it's consistent. Most Americans are actually very uncomfortable with unlimited abortion. They're uncomfortable with the notion that the feminists are continuing to assert, well, Roe gave an unlimited right to women to do what they want with their bodies. No, Roe specifically said the opposite. Roe specifically said a woman doesn't have the right to choose an abortion anytime she wants. It is the abortionist who decides if it's appropriate. It's the abortionist. So, again, having heard from Ruth Bader Ginsburg and from many others, those of you who have read my book, shameless plug, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, you need to understand that Roe v. Wade gave doctors the right to kill whenever they wanted to. And that is something that specifically is not constitutional. And it doesn't have any regard for that child's life. The average American doesn't feel that way. The average American knows nature. The average American knows that that's a human baby. And polling that's honest gets into that. We're going to give you specifics when we come back as we talk about part 2 of polling and abortion.
Life Matters continues after this.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. I support this show, and I would like to offer you our biggest discounts for listening. So please go to our website, mypillow.com, and put in the promo code at the end of this message to get the biggest discounts. Again, thanks for listening, and God bless.
And that promo code is LIFE. All caps, L-I-F-E, LIFE. So go to MyPillow, put in the promo code LIFE, and you'll get some wonderful discounts because Mike Lindell believes in you and in Life Matters.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Pro-Life Council. Would you help us during our pledge drive? It's easy. You can just pledge by text. Using your cell phone, text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. That's 916-347-5644. Once you enter the word GIVE, you'll be able to follow the prompts to pledge, and you can also find out a lot about California Pro-Life. Thanks, you're a lifesaver.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back. We're talking about public polling and the abortion issue. You're listening to Life Matters, your program that explores what the right to life is. It's a legal right. And now it's free for each state to determine the legal rights of that unborn child. Because Roe was overturned, each and every state gets to determine if that unborn child will get legal rights. Very, very significant. So now we're talking about polling and what do people really think, because states make their laws through state legislatures, and it is people who elect state legislators. Very important to recognize that. That's how states make their laws. You have a role in this. Your opinion and who you vote for is vital in this battle. Because that's where it's at. States will now be making laws. Are you going to vote for a pro-life candidate? Are you going to vote for a death advocating candidate? A choice candidate. And a lot of times they're going to use verbiage to mislead you, just as in the slavery issue. Most of those, particularly the Northern Democrats, whom Lincoln felt were the true evil, they said they were personally opposed to slavery. They just wanted the nation to be free to employ it wherever it saw fit. That was Senator Douglas of Illinois in the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates. He was personally opposed. He hated slavery personally, but he just wanted the freedom for it to be exercised everywhere. And Lincoln had to repudiate him. But that's what's going on right now, is that people are saying, oh, yeah, I'm personally opposed. Well, right now, there are laws being made. And your state legislator, if they say they're personally opposed, but they're going to vote for pro-abortion laws, they're not opposed. Don't buy their rhetoric. Make sure you get into the specifics. Don't let them give you religious verbiage or other confusing words. The question is the law. The right to life is a legal right, and it's a legal question. And that's what every state now has to wrestle with, and every elected representative and every voter who elects those representatives. That's our battle. Hey, so there was a poll that came out after Dobbs. It was conducted by the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. And I'm reading from an article written by my friend Dean Davis of Santa Rosa, California. He very accurately sums up. And of course, yes, this is a collection of OBGYNs who really don't do abortion and think there's something wrong with doctors doing abortions. So yes, they're inclined to want to look at the details because the big organization of obstetrics is pro-abortion. So they're asking the details. Okay, this poll was conducted in July of 2022. And basically, it gets into some questions. But of course, as always, the first question is not an unusual one. Do you support or oppose the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, which recognized a constitutional right to an abortion? The answer to that was that 53% of the respondents said they did support it. So the majority. And 31% answered that they opposed it. But then came a second question, and that's important in polling. What are the next questions? What are the details that they're going to ask? Because unless you know details, you're not going to be accurate in your response. The second question, would you support or oppose Roe v. Wade if you knew that it allowed abortion up to birth, including late-term abortions, when the fetus can feel pain? In that question, only 28% would support such a law, while 56% would oppose it. So the problem is that is what Roe versus Wade did. But people think they support Roe. You've been lied to by the media about Roe. Again, read my book, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, unless you know how the twists and turns of language were used to support abortion on demand, making it think it controlled abortion to certain trimesters. It was verbiage. It was lies. The media specializes in that, and they continue to do so. But there's more to this poll. Again, I'm talking right now about the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They care about the abortion issue deeply. They don't think obstetricians and gynecologists should be doing abortions willy-nilly, as certain other obstetricians and gynecologists are. So there's more. In your opinion, are these phenomena indicators of human life? A unique genetic endowment, a heartbeat, the presence of brain waves, bodily movements, sensitivity to touch, the ability to feel pain. See, these are very specific aspects of the human child, which are known. These are scientific facts that don't get discussed if you only talk about a woman's choice. If you don't talk about the child in any way, then you're going to be ignorant and you're going to give the response of an ignoramus. Oh yeah, well, a woman should have a choice. But the more you know about the details of that child that's about to be killed, there's a different response. Do you agree or disagree that abortion should not be allowed once there is indication of human life? Once that question is asked, 59% agreed there should not be an abortion. 22% disagreed. And the rest just couldn't say. They didn't know. And I'll be honest with you, they're a bit confused because the media has never described or gone into those details. The media has a vested interest in not telling you the truth. We're going to talk about more of that when we come back.
Life Matters continues after this.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Did you know that California has a law in the books that says you need to protect babies born alive in the course of an abortion? But that law is simply ignored. The current legislature and Governor Newsom's administration support all abortions all the time. And they simply do not examine or regulate the practice even though our tax dollars pay for it. We need to shine a light on this cover-up of the abortion industry in our state. Go to CaliforniaProLife.org and click on the Light of Day Project. We need the facts about late-term abortion to be examined and made known. We need the government doing its job to protect lives. We need the light of day on this. Go to CaliforniaProLife.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters, your program on the right to life, on the culture that emanates from that very important idea, because the whole culture has emanated from that, and we enjoy the riches of that culture. Now, I have to tell you this, point of personal privilege, I think it's a great blessing. Some people are irritated, but I think Donald Trump was very clear when he said, you cannot trust the media. They are lying. They are lying. I saw that long ago in dealing with the abortion issue. I'd had reporters call me years ago, but they weren't interested in what I said. They pretended they were. They had already written the story in their mind. They just needed a bad guy, and they would take an isolated phrase and drop it into the story they had already written just to prove the point that was already the agenda for the story. This is extremely common with many media outlets. They are not interested in providing you objective facts. They want to give you a cultural narrative. And that is actually taught in some media schools, that you have to lead the sheep. You must lead them to their conclusions. You must tell them to save the planet. They need to know that they're ignorant. So you as a member of the media must train them, and that's why we need fewer babies. So it's a great thing. So get out there and do your writing. That's actually taught in many media schools, that they have to lead people to a conclusion. And giving objective facts is not very fashionable in many media circles. So polling is critically important and asking very specific details. Let me get another question. I think it's the most interesting of all. Dean Davis points this out, that it's the most interesting, and it's posed near the end of the survey. Quote, at how many weeks do you think abortion should be prohibited? Pretty straightforward, actually. Here, 55% answered from 0 to 6 weeks, and 18% answered at 7 to 12 weeks. In other words, 73% of informed Americans believe that if abortion should be legal at all, then it should be performed in the first trimester when the preborn child cannot feel pain. And one of the reasons they think that is they've been trained that somehow Roe v. Wade only restrains it to the first trimester. So when our opponents say we want to restore Roe, they're actually lying, because Roe doesn't restrain to the first trimester, and it never did. It gave doctors alone the authority to do the decision if they felt there was any special need. And again, that had to do with the life and health exception explicitly stated in Doe v. Bolton, where Justice Blackmun defined life and health to be any sociological question or psychological question, anything at all the doctor came up with, including the woman's age. It was up to the doctor alone to determine if this was an exceptional case. Her health may be in danger. It could be a psychological or sociological matter. That's fine. The doctor gets to kill when they felt it was appropriate. That's what Roe v. Wade did, and that's why there were late-term abortions. It did not restrict abortion to the first trimester. I'm going to talk about another poll now, very important. It came out, it was aimed at California. It was done by a very respectable polling firm, the Rasmussen firm. And Rasmussen, I've known for a long time, they're great people because they're intellectually honest. And like most polls that need to get to the facts, that's what they do. They get specific. They did a poll because, in point of fact, here in California, every Californian is going to have to make a decision now after the Dobbs case. What would be an appropriate law for California? The state legislature, which is controlled entirely, not partly, it has a supermajority of radical Democrats. They have put on the ballot a constitutional amendment for the voters to think about. That constitutional amendment is intentionally vague, and yet it does, and they admit, grant an unlimited right of choice. What does that mean? You cannot infringe on that. That would be in the Constitution. So once it's in the Constitution, that law, well, now if you have a future pro-life legislature, they can't pass informed consent laws because that would restrict something about abortion. You cannot have parents know if a minor gets an abortion. That's a very popular position by most Americans, and most Californians support that parents should know if the minor is going to have an abortion. But that law would violate the California Constitution if Proposition 1 passes, because it would in some ways infringe on that young girl's right to choose herself. And so this constitutional law is very, very sweeping, and it's not being properly examined by the media. It's being presented in many ways as upholding Roe. It is not upholding Roe. It is going far beyond that. It is giving women, and if AB 2223, what's known as the infanticide measure, it would actually give anybody the right to kill that baby. They don't need to be a physician, and there would be no investigation. That's what this is about, the right to kill babies. The right to end a baby's life is what is meant by choice. And it won't have to be done by a doctor. This is very, very important that you understand where our opponents are coming from. They demand the right to end a life so that that woman then could be free. And if you look at the ideology of the far left, and in particular abortion advocates, that's the entirety of their debate. A woman is not truly free unless she's free to have her baby dead. It really is part of their ideology. We've talked about it on this program. Go back to Karl Marx. That's where radical feminism came from. It's actually explicitly described that abortion is absolutely necessary for the revolution to go forward because women are oppressed And if men can walk away from a pregnancy, women must be free. They must be free to walk away. That's where the abortion movement is coming from. They want the right for that baby to be dead, and they're calling it a right. But when it's talked about in details, when people understand the specifics of what this means, they're actually uncomfortable with that. They don't think like Marxists. They don't think like, I hate to put it this way, selfish person. I just want to do what I want with my life. I can kill this baby and then walk away. Well, most Californians even don't think that way. So let's talk about the Rasmussen poll. It found that only 13% of California likely voters believe abortion should be legal at any time during pregnancy, up to the moment of birth. And that is the case. 14% think abortion should be legal up to 6 months of pregnancy only. Well, 32% say abortion should be legal up to 3 months of pregnancy. That's Californians, folks. 19% believe abortion should only be legal during the first month of pregnancy, while 14% think all abortions should be illegal. Now, it's important that you understand this, that there's a range of positions, and you need to see these questions. If you want to go to lifematters.life, we'll republish that poll and these questions and the numbers. But Californians are going to vote on that. In your state, wherever you are, you as a citizen are going to vote for candidates who are going to take one of those positions. Which one is it? Where do you stand? Are you able to explain what's going on in Roe and Doe and what now the law is? Because before the Dobbs decision, you couldn't change it. Your state couldn't have a pro-life law that would limit what that doctor did in any significant way. That was prohibited under the Roe regime. But now states can vote to protect lives. They need to understand what that means. Proposition 1 doesn't allow any protections. The average Californian doesn't agree with that at all. Only 14% agree that there should be abortions legal at any time during pregnancy, all the way to birth. A very small proportion of Californians believe that, and yet that's what will be voted on. So that was a poll of 1,006 California likely voters. Again, you can see more of that at lifematters.life. You're learning what public opinion really is. Public opinion is on your side the more the facts of abortion are discussed. The facts are on our side. Please discuss the facts. Facts are terrible things to waste.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.